I don't see how the EFCC will go and arrest a former governor and come through the rooftop as if they are taking Pablo Escobar.
The time has come for us to show commitment. What do I mean? For instance, if I have the opportunity tomorrow to perhaps investigate the most distinguished president of the Senate, not even that, okay, let me use my Senator Adaramodu. Mr. Nominee, Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, I think by your designation, you are supposed to fight economic and financial crimes to create accountability and transparency in governance and in all sectors of the economy. I have a small story, Mr. President. I was once a local government chairman, and somebody wrote a frivolous petition against me. Your people or the commission, without any investigation, detained me for several days. After investigation, I was released, and it was close to an election time. So I understood at the end of the day that the petition was just meant to make me lose the next election. But the question I have is that, don't you think that if a petition is written on someone for financial or economic crime, you should do your due diligence investigation before inviting and detaining the person? Because otherwise, you end up detaining innocent people, and at the end of your investigation, you find out that the person has not committed the crime. Then what should the person do? Should he also sue you for detaining him, unlawfully? So my own question is that, are you supposed to just invite and detain a person on a petition from anybody? Or you must have concrete evidence that that crime have actually been committed? Number two, at least the hunter becomes the hunted. The EFCC is not also free of financial crime. I heard you say that there's that possibility if you are allowed to investigate the Senate president. So who will investigate the EFCC, sir? The House. So we also have the capacity to investigate you. So as you do your work, I want to advise that the EFCC should not be used as an instrument to fight political opponents. Because we have seen this clearly, that if you don't like my face, or if I'm contesting an election, for example, against the Senate president, and because of his status, you may decide to wade into political issues instead of fighting political, economic crimes. And therefore, you take side. For example, this side of the divide, they are the ones in government now. And if I'm running an election with any one of them, they can use you. You have to tell this Senate that you will be immune of being used by any political high-level person to fight innocent Nigerians or label innocent financial crimes against them, to deter them from achieving their rights to contest elections. He said not only elections, any other thing. So please, because the only way you can prove to us that you are right to fight economic crimes is for us to see that transparency in you. It's for us to see that you are not being used by somebody. Tell us, assuming President Bola Ahmed Tinubu will say today, go and investigate, assuming but not conceding, no. Go and investigate such a person, and you know that the person is not guilty. Even if he's guilty, will you follow the due diligence of the law to do that investigation? Finally, I was doing it, sir. Finally, is there no synergy between the EFCC and the ICPC? Because in my own instance, I was investigated on the same issues by these two agencies. Is there no synergy? That if EFCC is investigating Mr. A on crime ABC, ICPC should not be doing the same thing on the same grounds or the same charges. Thank you.
We will continue to interact with them. We will re-invite them because we are the ones oversighting them. And we have to do our job. You are aware that EFCC has a lot of questions to answer. And so this Senate in future intends also to look into the activities of EFCC. Am I right? You are talking about yourself. It means that the person who wrote petition against you when you were a local government chairman was not a high-profile person. That is why you were not even invited by DSS. That is why you were not invited by the IG. But what about where you have invitation to appear before DSS, appear before the IG, appear before the ICPC, appear before the EFCC, and it's all organized? How do you explain 98 petitions written against one human being, and none of them has any merit? So he has, what you are indirectly asking him is how will he treat frivolous petitions against politically exposed persons, which of some, all those investigations also cost money, taxpayers' monies. At the end, you don't find anything against that person, and the country has lost a lot of money. So these things are there. So, Chairman, incoming Chairman, if approved, just proceed to answer just a few questions, but don't lecture also. Just answer a few questions, and then so that we can release you to go and start work, if you are approved. Chairman nominee, the reality is that I think that EFCC has engaged more on sensation than on real investigation. Like the minority leader pointed out, it was a local government chairman, and election was coming. For me, I've had my own share, where even a letter informing EFCC that I would not be able to come on a frivolous petition was released by the office of the chairman of EFCC to Sahara reporters. You see the chairman's stamp on it. He released it to Sahara reporters just to embarrass me because of 2023 election. But to the glory of God, I surmounted it, I'm here. You know, so for me, I don't think we should waste time with the EFCC. We need to take a thorough look at the EFCC and look at whether the act setting up the EFCC even allows them to function, because there's too much discretion. I don't see how the EFCC will go and arrest a former governor and come through the rooftop as if they are taking Pablo Escobar yeah, but it happened. It happened to Rocha Sokorocha. They came through the roof. They broke through the POP, and it was calling live. Nigerians were the whole world watched. They removed the roof, went through the POP, broke it down, and they were going down with guns. Is that EFCC? And for you, that is investigation. So what I would like to hear from you will be, what will you do differently? Because outside this country, sometimes they can follow somebody for 5 to 10 years until they establish evidence before they invite that person. But they keep embarrassing people's children, traumatizing the children, stigmatizing people because they had the opportunity to be in public office. And even within the EFCC, properties that you recover, monies you recover, are stolen. People's properties that are supposed to be in your care are stolen and sold out at ridiculous prices. Properties worth 5 billion are sold for 300 naira because it is EFCC. So for me, EFCC, I have my own opinion about EFCC. So I welcome you, Chairman. So I don't want to comment on EFCC, but I know that no, I know that this hallowed chamber has the governor, and we have the right to review the law setting up EFCC for proper functionality and effectiveness. Am I speaking the minds of senators? Yes. Senator Abbas, close it.
And of course, Mr. Mohammed Hassan Hamajoda, the nominee for the position of Secretary of the EFCC. But right on the podium is Mr. Ola, who has been nominated to serve as the next substantive chairman of the EFCC. Mr. Ola, you may wish to introduce yourself.
Dele, who happens to also be a senator representing my state. Permit me also to specially recognize Senator Yemi Adaramudu from Ekiti South, who happens to be my own senator from Ekiti South. Permit me to also recognize Senator Cyril, who also is from Ekiti North Senatorial District. Fashuyi, Senator Cyril Fashuyi, distinguished. The very distinguished Senators of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I stand before you today as the nominee of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the father of the nation, to be screened and confirmed, if you so desire, as the Executive Chairman of Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. I'd like to especially thank and appreciate the President for finding me worthy of this nomination. I also like to put on record that this hallowed chambers had cause to screen me in 2018 as the Secretary nominee for Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, and I was duly confirmed in 2018 by these hallowed chambers. So this is making me the second time of appearing before you. And I believe that the same gesture that was extended then will so also be extended. Having said that, my name is Ola Nikpeko Lukoyede. I was born on the 14th of October 1969 in Ikero, Ekiti State, southwest region of Nigeria. I started my education pursuit in 1974 at St. Luke's Primary School. From there, moved on to Annunciation College, both in Ikero, Ekiti. From there, I had a stint at College of Basic and Remedial Studies in Akure, where I had my A-levels. From there, I proceeded to University of Lagos, where I ran a program in law, diploma in law. From there, I moved to Lagos State University, where I graduated with LLB. From there, went to the Nigerian Law School, where I was called to the bar. By way of executive education, I'm also an alumnus of Harvard Kennedy School, University of Harvard, and also University of Oxford in UK, where I had an executive education program in public corruption management. I started my career way back in 1995, even before I went back to study law. That was when I had my first experience as a fraud manager, when I was employed by an international company to carry out fraud management. That was where I had my first training. And from there, I went back to school. After I became a lawyer and called to bar, I was privileged to join an international company as well, where I started my career as a compliance manager and also corporate intelligence specialist. This job took me to about 3 continents of the world, and it gave me experience to interact with other key players in law enforcement around the world. By virtue of the job I did then, I represented the company to carry out what we call compliance management and regulatory compliance with foreign corrupt practices in the US and also Bribery Act in the UK, where we carried out consultancy job for all international companies that are subject of those laws. And that gave me the opportunity of having an encounter with operatives in the FBI and the Serious Force Office in the UK. After my foray into that, I had the opportunity of also working at the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. First of all, maybe at least for the knowledge of the House, Malam Nuri Badu, we met first in 2006, I think in Washington, D.C., where I presented a paper and he noticed me and he said, "Look, young man, what are you doing here? Why don't let's go back home and I've been the chairman of Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, see how we can support our country." So he gave me the opportunity of working with him as a trainer and also as someone who rendered service in the area of prosecution support. And after that, when he left, I went back to private sector again and continue with my regulatory compliance work. And as fate will have it, I also went back again to law enforcement when I was employed as the chief of staff in 2016 to the executive chairman of Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. Of course, as a chief of staff, you are like a shadow chairman. You are like the clearing table for the chairman. And after that, I also became the secretary in 2018 November. That is by way of my journey into the profession of fraud management and regulatory compliance. When this nomination came up, I quickly addressed my mind to the Herculean task that this is going to place before not only me, but the entire country. And so that helped me to come up with 3-pronged approach, which I call policy objectives. In 1 minute, I'm going to present it to you. I came up with the first one that has to do with focus. And these are the principles that will drive me and my colleagues if I'm privileged to be confirmed in EFCC. Number one, what is the focus of an anti-corruption agency? In a place like Nigeria, we need to redirect our focus. Section 6 of EFCC Act has given us what an anti-corruption agency should be doing. Number one, I believe we should focus on driving economic development. Number two, we must also create an atmosphere for transparency and accountability in running the government. And also, number three, we must help as an anti-corruption agency to build the international image of this country. Because if you don't do that, there is no way you will endear foreign direct investment. And so having put these 3 policy objectives together, something came to my mind. And I said, look, with this, how do we move forward? And I also came up with 3 posters that I'd like to share with you very quickly before I round off, and also present it before these allo chambers, so that all of us can put minds together and see how we can move forward in Nigeria. Number one is the need for collective responsibility. We need to get to a point in Nigeria where we need to come together on the same page and believe that corruption is a cankerworm to our development. We must come together and believe that financial crimes, the way it has overwhelmed our structure and systems in Nigeria, we can't move forward. Even if we are moving forward, it's going to be at a snail speed. And so where do we go from here? All of us must come together. It's not just the work of the anti-corruption agencies. We must agree. And I say this. Everybody is talking about we need to fight corruption, but I have come by virtue of my experience to notice that it is become more of rhetoric than showing the commitment. And that's why I'm standing before you today, if given the opportunity. The time has come for us to show commitment. What do I mean? For instance, if I have the opportunity tomorrow to perhaps investigate the most distinguished president of the Senate, not even that, okay, let me use my senator, Senator Dramodu. As an agency, the moment you open the investigation, automatically you become the enemy of the person. Not only the enemy of that person, you become the enemy of all his friends. You become the enemy of all his acquaintances. You become the enemy of all his family members. You become the enemy of all his party members. You become the enemy of all his professional members. And that is the way we have been fighting. And if we have this attitude, we can move forward. We must realize that this is bad, and we must support the anti-corruption agency to call a spade, no matter the relationship we have with such a person. And because even to the corrupt themselves don't even enjoy a good living, standard of living. For example, somebody has stolen money in Nigeria, as it is today, and you bought a Rolls Royce. Where is the road to drive a Rolls Royce in Nigeria? You have stolen money, you built a mansion in your village or local government. Won't you be afraid to spend a night there? Where is the security? Now, if you look at this trajectory, you discover that it's a sort of financial crimes and corruption that we have, all of us collectively, we've not really done much about. And I'm saying this with every sense of solidarity and every sense of patriotism, brother. So the time has come for us to call evil, evil. It doesn't matter whose resource is God. It doesn't matter who's benefiting from it. That's number one. So there must be collective responsibility. Number two, as I begin to round up, we must also, particularly for my colleagues in the anti-corruption platform, the time has come for us to begin to look at more of prevention than enforcement. Enforcement is a very strong tool in our hand. We are going to apply it very seriously. But again, I discover that the incentives are there all around us in Nigeria. And I'll give you an example. You see an average level 8 public servant who drives 2 cars, who builds a house. I mean, this is common knowledge. Everybody knows. Now, we ask ourselves a question. His savings for 30 years, have been all through his service years, can he actually afford to buy this car? But the problem we have is just like the proverbial monkey that was locked up in the cage, and you put a bunch of ripe banana in that cage, and you stand outside with a cane in your hand, 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, and you warn the monkey not to eat the banana, and you lock the monkey there with cane in your hand outside the cage. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. The monkey will think twice. What is the alternative for God here? If I eat this banana, I will survive. The worst will come is that this man will kill me. After so much, he will kill me. But if I am afraid to eat this banana, I will die. That is where we have gotten to. That everybody wants to dip hands into the treasury and all of that. And the incentives for corruption is all over the place. So I will do more in the area of blocking the leakages. Because also in the course of my carrying out study, fraud survey, I discovered that for you to, if you allow 10 naira to be stolen, You spend an average of between 3 naira 50 kobo and 4 naira 50 kobo to recover it. That is even if you are able to recover the whole 10 naira. But for you to prevent the stealing of 10 naira, you spend less than 1 naira. So which one is the more effective tool to fight corruption? Without downplaying the importance of enforcement, why can't we channel more time on prevention and let it begin with these allo chambers today? We discovered that in Nigeria, there is nowhere to run to. So I want to plead with these allo chambers. There is what we call transactional credit system. If we continue to allow Nigerians to buy houses, cash, to buy cars, cash, we don't have a very effective credit system. 1,000 EFCC added to 1 million ICPC will not do us any good. And that is the reality. We must create that atmosphere as lawmakers for people to have choices. Look, if I don't steal money, can I afford to train my children in school? Minimum standard. If I don't steal money, can I buy a car after I've worked for 5 years? If I don't steal money, can I at least put 3-bedroom bungalow in place after I've worked for 15, 20 years? An average Nigerian doesn't have a hope. When he has the opportunity, he will steal. And even if he doesn't have it, he will create one. And so you will now leave the law enforcement agencies and the anti-corruption agencies to start running after them. Finally, distinguished senators, sir, I'd like to also for us to encourage our criminal justice system to work. We must, if we really want to fight corruption, anywhere the fight of corruption succeeds in the world, the substance is taken above technicalities. We must encourage our criminal justice system to advocate in such a way that max, prosecution doesn't take more than 5 years, max from cost of first instance to Supreme Court. And I know these allo chambers can begin to work on that very seriously. And so if we make our criminal justice system work, you will see more of what the anti-corruption agencies are doing. And it will be better for all of us. On this note, I'd like to thank you very much, and I want to leave you with this. I did a survey between 2018 and 2020 of 50 entities in Nigeria. 50 entities, both human and corporate entities, between 2018 and 2020. And I picked just one scheme, one species of fraud, which is called contract and procurement fraud. And I discovered that between 2018 and 2020, 3 years, Nigeria lost 2.9 trillion. 2.9 trillion. Now, when I put my figures together, I discovered that this money, if we had saved, if we had prevented it, would have given us 1,000 kilometers of roads. In addition to that, we would have built close to 200 standard schools, tertiary institutions. In addition to that, we would have educated about 6,000 children from primary to tertiary levels at 16 million per child. We would have delivered 20,000 units of 3-bedroom houses across the country, and even more. We would have given us a world-class teaching hospital in each of the 36 states of the Federation. This is where we are coming from. This is where we are. Where we are going to go depends on the decision we take this afternoon. Thank you very much.
Representing Borno South. Mr. President?
Please, can you get him a seat to sit? Huh? If you collapse here, you'll be disqualified. Senator Dube, you have the floor.
Mr. President, sitting as chair, and distinguished colleagues, let me start by congratulating you. Being a person that I know, not much, but closely, You worked with Magu when you were consulting, and you also worked as his chief of staff. Later you became a secretary, and now a pastor. I don't know when you became a pastor, but along the way. Now, I have two questions. But before I do that, I want to make some small clarification as the leadership on the behalf. This much talked about Section 2.1 is being misinterpreted in the sense that it is talking about a certain qualification or equivalent. Looking at the CV of the person standing before us, as I said, he has been in the system for 10 years now, or in the EFCC, and even being the secretary. I don't think there will be any other equivalence of experience than that. So that should settle the issue of Section 2.1. My question, actually, is that the institutions responsible for fighting corruption includes the NFIU, the FATF is, you are a member, or the EFCC is a member, even though it has no statutory body. The EFCC itself and the ICPC, the DSS, looking at what they are doing now, and the police, of course, the CID. And when I looked at the laws establishing or detailing the responsibilities of this organization, I find it so many places conflicting. The NFIU was under your organization when you were there, and you are also there when it was removed, and you are also there when an act establishing it as an independent agency was passed by the National Assembly.
Mr. President, sitting as chair, distinguished colleagues, I write pursuant to Order 8, subsection 3, to move for an...
Distinguished Senator Dume, as regards the NFIU, FATF, and the establishment of NFIU, rather. Now, those provisions you refer to, sir, in EFCC that are still there, that also similar to what NFIU is doing, those provisions are being repealed automatically by the enactment of the NFIU Act. But again, when it comes to the issue of money laundering and all that, there is no way we can rule out the possibility of areas of overlap. There is no way. But specifically, when it comes to the statutory function of NFIU, all those relevant provisions in EFCC Act have been repealed by the virtue of the establishment of the NFIU and the enactment of the NFIU Act. Now, sir, you also asked questions about unexplained wealth order. You tried to relate it to media trial, but all what I'm going to say is that the mandate given by EFCC, the mandate given to EFCC was given to EFCC by law. Any attempt to do anything outside that mandate is going to be deemed as also violating the provision of the law. And so if I have given the opportunity, I stand before you. I was also an officer in the Temple of Justice. We are going to do our work diligently with utmost respect to the provisions of the law. You can't fight anti-corruption successfully without respect to the provisions of the law. I make that pledge before you, sir. Now, the distinguished senator from Plateau, I didn't get the name very well, I'm sorry about that.
Senator Simon, thank you, sir. Distinguished Senator Simon. Minority, thank you, sir. Now, you raised the issue of due diligence before invitation and all of that. Now, a professional investigator will tell you that before you can invite anyone, at the point of invitation, you must have done 90% of your work. I mean, a thorough investigator should know that. That is what we call predication in investigation. When you receive a petition, you look at it, you carry out a preliminary investigation. And when having established predication, then you can now probably begin to look into other areas. And if now you must bring in the person, that will almost be the last lap of investigation. And I want to also say that there could be exceptions to that rule of predication as well. For example, if you know that the person may escape out of jurisdiction, and that could vitiate the process of your, and you need to bring in this person to make treatment and all of that, then perhaps it may be expedient for you to put some certain processes in place, and just to ensure that the person does not escape, because you have already started your investigation. Now, that is an exception to the rule, but the general application is that of predication. You must have done your work. This is financial crime investigation. It's not combatant matter. It's not war. What we need is the brain and technology. We will get to a point that at the press of a button, we can look at the financial, activities of everybody. So that makes the job easier for you. So you don't even have to start running after people carrying AK-49, hounding people all over the place. That's not the best way to investigate financial crimes. That's why we call it white-collar crimes. Now, we also, the Chief Senator also raised the issue of political opponents. I'd like to submit, sir, with every sense of commitment to duty. This issue of, investigating political opponents is neither here nor there. There are two salient questions that must be asked and answered. Number one, has the person committed crime? Has he committed financial crimes? If he has, then I will have cause to investigate him. Whether, if you are in the ruling party, if you dip your hands into what you are not supposed to dip your hands into, you will be called to question. Well, you are in the opposition, you swallow sandpaper that will not digest, you will also be called to answer questions. So the mandate that the law gives us, or gives EFCC, did not discriminate. And the question is, okay, of course, there's no way you will not pick people find people who have committed crime and all of that, financial crimes. This is where equity and justice comes in. So you will not be seen as chasing a particular section or, send that, signal across to people that you are always chasing a particular set of people. And that's where we are going to balance the whole thing. That's what I have to say about that. So we are going to be guided strictly by our mandate. And finally, the synergy between EFCC and ICPC. Some years ago, I was privy to developing an MOU between EFCC and ICPC, to the extent that we don't want to begin to do things that at the end of the day will end up in double jeopardy. So I remember then the acting executive chairman and the chairman of ICPC, including myself and the secretary of ICPC, we had a couple of meetings. And we developed that MOU, but I'm not sure that MOU has been executed. Now, if I'm given the opportunity to be confirmed, one of the first things I'm going to do is to ensure that that MOU is executed, so that will form a kind of working relationship between ICPC and EFCC, so that we'll be able to look. If ICPC is investigating someone using Nigerian taxpayers' money, why should I dissipate energy and resources to investigate? If perhaps it's the same, the facts are similar, I don't think that is going to be the interest of of the nation. Thank you very much. That's all I have to say about the questions.
The chairman, just to mention that I've actually seen that you have appeared before the Senate before, and you were cleared. You were cleared on the 28th day of November 2018. as Secretary of the EFCC. You didn't mention that, so that was important. It means that this Salo chamber had already scrutinized you and given you a clean bill of health. And then you serve as Secretary of the EFCC after the clearance by the Senate. You should have told us. We wouldn't have wasted so much time. Move forward, come forward and take a bow. You can take leave of the Senate.